Hello, in this video, I'm going to rank the best and worst email marketing flows for scaling an e-commerce brand in 2026. Some of these flows will directly increase your revenue. Others look good on paper, but will actually waste your time. If you're doing over 100K per month and want to scale faster with email marketing, this video will save you months of trial and error. If you're new here, this channel is all about helping e-commerce brands generate more revenue and profit through email marketing and retention. And my name is Idris. I'm the founder of Retention Only, a boutique email marketing agency working with German and English speaking e-commerce brands. Over the last 5 years, we've worked with 50 plus e-commerce brands and generated more than 65 million in email revenue. And in today's video, I'll rank flows from S tier to D tier. S tier are flows that actually move revenue and scale your business. D tier flows are the ones that most brands build but should honestly stop prioritizing. Let's get into it. The first flow we will talk about is the welcome flow. And the welcome flow is by far the most important flow because it's generating the most amount of revenue for e-commerce brands. And it directly impacts CPA and ROAS. You spend money on ads, you will have traffic, and your welcome flow determines your new customer ROAS and CPA. Because the better your welcome flow performs, the higher your new customer ROAS will be and the lower your CPA will be. But the worse your welcome flow performs, the higher your CPA will be and the lower your new customer ROAS will be. So this flow is very, very important and you need to do everything you can to make it very persuasive and convincing to get people who are just interested in your brand and have signed up to your newsletter to actually buy from your brand. You need to use social proof, authority, risk reversal, turn your best performing ads into emails, have surveys in your welcome flow asking people why they have subscribed but not purchased yet. And you need to do everything you can and be as pushy as possible to get these people to buy from you, to recoup some of the ad spend that you have invested into them. So this flow is definitely in the S tier rank. The second flow we will talk about is the abandoned checkout flow. People that have put something into their cart, went to the checkout, and then abandoned the checkout are receiving these emails. So these people were very, very close to actually buying from your brand. So they're really, really hot, and you will have a very high conversion rate on these people. Now, this flow will also help you to lower your CPA and increase your new customer ROAS, because the better this flow is, these people don't need to be even subscribed to your newsletter. The better this flow is, the higher your new customer ROAS will be, or your ROAS in general, and the lower your CPA will be. So this flow is also very important, and it typically generates a lot of revenue for most e-commerce brands. So if the welcome flow is generating the most amount of revenue, this flow is right behind it and is generating, in most cases, the second most amount of money for e-commerce brands. So this flow needs to also go into the S tier rank. The third flow we will talk about is the abandoned cart flow. And most people are mixing the abandoned cart and abandoned checkout flow with each other, but they're totally different. The abandoned checkout flow only triggers when people have actually went to the checkout. The added to cart flow or abandoned cart flow is only triggering when people are putting something into their cart. So it's one step before going to the checkout. And this flow can only be triggered by people who have already subscribed or purchased from your brand, and Klaviyo can then trigger that they've added something to the cart and trigger this flow. Like you see, abandoned checkout is really one step before the purchase, and this added to cart flow or abandoned cart flow is 2 steps before the purchase. So the conversion rate is a little bit lower. These people are a little bit colder, and it's also a very important flow, but not the most important one, and it will only be triggered for actual subscribers and customers, whereas the abandoned checkout flow could also be triggered for people who have not subscribed or not purchased because they've left their email in the checkout. So I would rank this, when we're talking about scaling your e-commerce brand, as a tier ranked email flow. It's also really good, but it's not in the highest tiers like the welcome flow and abandoned checkout flow. If you want free access to this ranking and a Miro board that includes email examples for every single flow, click the first link in the description and get access to both for free. The fourth flow we need to talk about is the browser abandonment flow. The browser abandonment flow gets triggered when someone is viewing a product. So you see, it's very different to the abandoned cart and abandoned checkout flow because it's a lot further away from the actual conversion. And so this is why this flow is also not having the highest conversion rate, and people are a lot colder than people that trigger the abandoned cart or abandoned checkout flow. But this flow is still generating revenue, but it's definitely not in the tier of the Wacom and abandoned checkout flow. But if you're splitting this flow up into window shoppers and people that are just interested in one product by setting a conditional split, then you can even make a little bit more revenue, but still it's not an S tier. It's a flow that I would consider an A tier rank email flow. It's definitely something you need to have in your setup to maximize revenue from people who have subscribed or purchased from your brand. So definitely an A tier rank email flow. The next flow we need to talk about is the abandoned site flow. And the abandoned site flow gets triggered when someone is visiting your website and is just active on your website. So they don't have to do anything. They just need to be on your website. And so Klaviyo triggers this flow for customers and subscribers. And you can just imagine they have not done anything on your website. So they have not even viewed a product. So the conversion intent of these people is really low and they're really cold. So you can send an email to them. It will generate some revenue, but it's not in comparison to the amount of revenue that a welcome flow, abandoned checkout, abandoned cart, or browser abandonment flow will generate for your e-commerce brand. So it's a nice to have flow, but I would rank it as a B tier flow because it's just not working that well for most brands, and it's just generating a little bit of revenue, but not too much. You can go into an email flow like this with talking about trust, talking about risk reversal, talking about your best sellers, but don't expect too much revenue from this flow. So I will rank it as a B tier flow. Now let's talk about my favorite flow, which is the post-purchase flow. The post-purchase flow is the heart of the email marketing flows because it directly impacts your repurchase rate. And your repurchase rate directly impacts your customer lifetime value. And your customer lifetime value determines how much profit you will make per customer. And so the better your post-purchase flow, the higher your repurchase rate will be. And the higher your repurchase rate is, the higher your customer lifetime value and the profit you will make from each and every customer will be. And so if you are improving your post-purchase flow and you're tracking your repurchase rate and customer lifetime value, and you're improving these stats, then you will have more and more and more and more money every month in your bank account because people, and especially your customers, will spend more money with you because they're buying more often. And these repurchases are bringing you revenue where you don't have to spend money on ads. They will just come naturally or via email. And so this is one of the most important flows, and it can really make or break your e-commerce brand. And brands like AG1, brands like Seed, Heights, Obvi, they're really focusing on this flow because they know the importance of it. So this is definitely one of the flows that is making it into the S tier rank. The next flow we will talk about is a flow that most e-commerce brand owners don't even know it exists. And it's one of the most important flows. I'm talking about the winback flow. So this winback flow gets triggered when a customer has not made a purchase in a while. So when someone purchases, they first go through your post-purchase flow, in which you try to educate your customers, build a habit around your product, help them to repurchase, tell them why to repurchase. And if all of that has not worked and a customer has not repurchased in a while, you have your win-back flow. And the purpose of your win-back flow is to win back these customers so they make another purchase. Because the repurchase is where most e-commerce brands are actually making their profits from, because they're getting an order without having to spend money on ads. And so this flow is really important. You need to be pushy. You need to make them different offers. You need to bump up your offers. And it needs to come right after the post-purchase flow. So you first have your post-purchase flow, and if these customers have not repurchased, the win-back flow will right away start. And you'll make them different offers, try different angles, use urgency, and try to get as many people to repurchase as possible. And what I'm seeing with a lot of my clients is if you structure your win-back flow properly, it can actually make as much revenue as your abandoned checkout flow or your post-purchase flow. And it directly affects your repurchase rate and customer lifetime value. So I will definitely say this is one of the most important flows, especially if you want to increase your repurchase rate and customer lifetime value. So I'll also rank it in the S tier ranks. The next flow I want to talk about is one of the most underutilized flows that most e-commerce brand owners know it exists, but they don't know how to set it up. I'm talking about the upsell flow. And the upsell flow is a flow that should be triggered right after someone has placed an order. So maybe 30 minutes after someone has placed an order. So they first receive the order confirmation email from Shopify, and then they receive this email from you. And what you want to do in this flow is you want to get your customers to buy more of the same product or buy a complementary product. And you do that with a very aggressive offer. And you want to logically explain how this upsell and how this additional product that you want to sell them will help them achieve their desired result faster. So if you look at a typical customer experience and you want to increase your new customer AOV, then you want to have add to cart upsells, cart upsells, checkout upsells, post-purchase upsells, and then you want to have your upsell flow. And this upsell flow will help you increase your new customer AOV, will help you increase your repurchase rate and your customer lifetime value. And especially for brands that are not profitable on the first order, this flow is vital. And so for brands in the home and living niche, skincare niche, and for supplement brands, this flow is working really well. Then there are other brands where this flow is just not working, but it's still really, really important, but not applicable to every brand. And so what I do to make this flow working is to sell more of the same product. But in some cases, it just doesn't make sense. But for supplements and for skincare and in the home and living niche, it does. 30 minutes after someone has placed an order, with an aggressive offer with 25, 30, 35% off. And then one day later, I will send a reminder and tell them you only have 24 more hours to apply this offer or use this offer. And this way, we've generated a lot of revenue for brands in the home and living niche, supplement niche, and skincare niche. But for other brands, it has not worked at all. So I would therefore rank this as a B tier flow. So it's not an S rank, also not an A rank, but definitely B tier rank, because for some brands it works tremendously well, for others it doesn't. So B tier should be fair. One of the flows that you have probably heard of is the sunset flow. The sunset flow's purpose is to automatically suppress profiles who have not interacted with your emails for a longer time period. Now, a lot of agencies are talking about the sunset flow and how important it is. In my opinion, it's not really important because first, it's not generating brands any revenue. Second, when someone has not interacted with your email campaigns and flows for a while, they will not interact just because you're saying, if you're not clicking this email, then we will suppress you. And third, if you are monitoring the deliverability of your clients and you are actively suppressing profiles who have not interacted with this brand for a longer time period, then you don't really need this flow. And so this flow is not really important. The content of it, it's also not that important. And especially if you want to generate more revenue with flows, this flow is definitely not in any kind of way or shape or form able to do that for your brand. So this is why I would rank this as a D tier flow. And I think just it's super overrated and it's not as important as people, agencies, and e-commerce brand owners think. The last flow I want to talk about is the birthday flow. The birthday flow is a flow in which you are congratulating your customers or subscribers to their birthday, and you're giving them some kind of an incentive or a gift to trigger reciprocity and make them happy and build a long-lasting relationship with this customer or subscriber. And so the way you're doing that is by having a pop-up appear to all of your email profiles, in which you are asking them to give you their birthday so that you can send them a gift when they have their birthday. Now, this is one way. And then a second way is after a month or 2 months, after someone has subscribed to your newsletter or placed an order, you can send them an email and tell them, hey, could you please give us your birthday so we can gift you something to your special day? And then they click the button and they can be directed to an embedded form on your website where they just type in their birthday, and then you can trigger your flow. So how well does this flow do? It sounds good, but it's not generating that much revenue. It's a good flow to have, but I think first you need to have all of the flows in the S, A, and B tier rank before you even think about this flow. It's a nice to have, it's generating some revenue, but it's definitely not as much as most people think. So this is why I would rank this as a C tier flow. You can have it, but I would first work on the S and A and B tier flows before I would touch this flow. It's a nice to have, but it's not a must have. If you like this video and if you want free access to this ranking and a Miro board that includes email examples for every single flow that I've just mentioned in this video, then click the first link in the description and get access to it. Thank you very much for listening, and take care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.